After you buy your 55-gallon water barrels, it's a good idea to go ahead and rinse them out before you start putting on all your fittings. I've got mine just situated on a sink here. I've got a food grade water hose hooked to my water faucet, and you can find these types of adapters at any hardware store that just adapts your faucet onto your water hose. Basically, the little strainer on your faucet screws off, the adapter screws on, and then you put your hose on after that. The hose is food grade. It's the same type of thing you'll use on like a camper or an RV. Regular water hoses are made out of chemicals that contain lead and other things, and if you ever look at a water hose, it'll tell you not to drink from it if it's just your standard green yard garden hose. These are made of a special material, I guess, that are just food grade that won't hurt you and it won't hurt the water that runs through it. So I picked this up at Walmart. I think it was like 14 bucks. It's real cheap. So what I'm going to do now is just spray the inside of the container out and let it drain back into the sink. And I'll do that a couple of times just to make sure that I wash out anything that might be in there. That could be plastic shavings, just about anything. So it's a good idea to take care of it. If you finish washing the inside of your can out, your container, you just want to go ahead and maybe use a paper towel to dry it all off. It's a good idea to do that so that you can clean off any dust. You've already got some wetness because of rinsing it out, so you might as well take care of getting the top cleaned up. And I try to do a little cleaning around the bung holes here so that if there's anything that washed out, that I don't wash it back in when I fill the barrel or put on the bung caps. After that's done, it's just a good time to go ahead and start putting on your different fittings. Your barrels, you're going to have two bung plugs, bung caps in each barrel, but while they look a little bit the same, they're really different. First thing that's different are the threads. You'll notice that this one has the 3 coarse threads, and it has a threaded inside that can be I guess you can put like a 3/4 inch adapter, any type of a fitting in there. It'll have a cap at the bottom that seals it off. I'll show you how to get that out in a second. The other one has 9 tight threads, and I guess they call this an NPT cap. It has, the tighter threads, so it won't fit over here. Also, it does not have a threaded insert. Since I'll be placing my water containers on their sides, I'm going to need to use a different type of cap. These caps I ordered online, and they have the NPT threads, but they also have a threaded insert just like the coarse one. So that's what you need, and this is easy to get out too. One thing I have learned to do is when you remove these caps, it will have a rubber gasket that looks like this around it. I went ahead and removed the rubber gasket from the NPT that I'm not going to use, and I'm going to install it on the NPT with the threaded inside that I am going to use in a little while. I ordered this bung wrench from the same company that I got the NPT with the threaded insides from, and I use it to knock out the little cap that's on the inside, this one that's right here. I will be honest, I used a few different methods before I figured out how to do this. One of the things was I used a chisel, but I found out that I was starting to damage the threads on the inside when I punched through, and after a little bit of thought, I figured out that you can take the cap and place it on top of the bung wrench, and it will fit inside the threads, so you're not going to damage the outer threads, and it gives you a little bit of room for that bung to punch through. These are the 1/4 inch bolts that I was going to that I'm using to put together the rack, and they just happen to have just the right side head to fit down inside there. And then you just use the hammer to tap away, and after a few good taps the inside pops out and you're left with clean threads that haven't been damaged that you can use. What I'm doing here is just using a pair of, I think these are called conduit pliers. They're for actually holding like electrical connections, but they're got a rubber insert which keeps you from tearing up your plastic and still gives you better grip than just using your hands. Just to make sure that I got it tight. The thing I've noticed about these things is they're real easy to kind of cross thread. You gotta kind of go easy on them. Once you have it set up, it's pretty easy to get tight. That little rubber, gasket helps. I also noticed on here that it says that you need to torque it to 20 foot-pounds. I have a torque wrench, so I'm just doing it till it's good and tight. I've checked these after tightening them up that way and found that I didn't have any leaks, so just giving them a good tight till they don't really turn very much anymore seems to be perfect. This is the basic setup that I'm using for the middle barrel. This would be on a 3-tier rack, this would be the one that's in the middle. And what I have here is I've got the coarse threaded bung here, and I went ahead and installed a male adapter that's 3/4 inch, and I've got the same setup here using the MPT bung holes that I got, or bung caps, and the same thing. A little bit of advice: I would go ahead and spend the extra $1 to buy some of this tape to wrap around the threads. I found that it really did a good job of sealing it. Speaking of sealing, before you build your rack, you want to make sure that your tanks aren't going to leak. So go ahead and assemble them as much as you can. I went ahead and assembled this one, and then I went ahead and put my hose on one end of it. This is one of the hoses that's going to run water from one tank to the other. So I went ahead and installed that, and I tightened down the band. The other end I left off, brought it over here to the sink, and I went ahead and filled it with some water and made sure that I didn't have any leakage at these threads or at these threads or these right here. And it's a good, you can probably adjust these right here after it's been put on, but once this thing's full of water and sitting on your rack, if you've got a leak, even a small leak, you're going to be in trouble, because you're going to have to take off the hose in order to get your bung wrench to fit over the fitting, and if you take off the hose, the water is going to come out, so you'd have a mess on your hands. Go ahead and make sure that you don't have any leaks before you fill all your tanks up and connect them together. This will be my bottom tank. It's going to have a same setup for the water inlet. For the water discharge, since this will be my lowest tank, I went ahead and put just a valve on here that I can turn on and off, and I've left a adapter on here so I can put a short piece of tubing that I can angle into a bucket or whatever I want to use and have some flexibility there. Another nice thing about this setup is I can also install one of my, I'll find it around here somewhere. Here we go. This is a neat little adapter that you can use for a garden hose. So when it's time to fill up my tanks, I'll take this off, I'll put this on, then I'll thread my hose from my sink into it, and I can start filling the barrels. And as this barrel fills up, it'll force the water through this one into the second tank, and so on. Once it's all set up, I'll give you a good demonstration on how that works. I wanted to show you this so that you can see the setup and that you can remember to go ahead and check for leaks here, here, and here before you actually get it on the rack. So as it fills up with water, it's going to get to that level that would force water against the seal there at the bottom. Once it reaches that amount, I'll go ahead and get real close to it and check for any little leaks. Okay, I can tell that the water has reached that level because I can see water starting to flow through the plastic on the inside there. And what I'm going to do now is just put my finger over the end of this thing, keep water from pouring out, and then angle the barrel so it's got a lot of water against that bung cap. And a good idea before you do any of that is to make sure you take a paper towel and clean off any water that might be on there so that you won't mistake water from maybe filling this thing up with a leak. Alright, I've got it in here at a pretty good angle just to make sure that there's no leaks, and I'm just going around and checking for any types of water drops, and there are none, so I know that this fitting is good. This one at the top I'm not really going to worry a bunch about. I've got a different idea for this. It's going to be the uppermost cap, so it's not going to have any water against it, and I'm going to have to be able to loosen this cap so that I can not create a vacuum when I'm draining the tanks or getting water out. So I'm thinking about putting a valve just like the one over there at the top of this one, so that I can turn it on and off and let the water or air either exit or the tanks, when I'm filling it up, or I can allow air to be sucked in when water's draining out. Okay, now that I've checked for leaks, I'm going to go ahead and remove this clamp so that I can get the water to drain out. Best way to get this thing off, I found, is just to give it a little wiggle or pull. As soon as this finishes draining, I can start to assemble the rack.